My name is Donnie Carson, 28 years old, and I never thought my family's weekly Sunday dinner would end with me being kicked out of my childhood home. One minute we were passing mashed potatoes. The next my dad was pointing at the door, face red with anger, telling me I was selfish, and my sister deserved more than me. I just laughed and said, "Cool, then I'm done paying her rent." The look on everyone's faces was priceless. Before I dive into what happened next, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button for more family drama stories. To understand why that Sunday dinner went nuclear, you need to know about my family. I come from what looks like a typical middle-class American family on the surface. My dad, Robert, owns a moderately successful construction company that he built from scratch after dropping out of community college. He takes enormous pride in his self-made success and has always had very specific ideas about how his children should live their lives. My mom, Laura, works as an elementary school administrator. She has always been the peacekeeper in our family, the one who smooths things over when Dad gets too intense or when disagreements break out. She loves us both, but over the years, she has enabled a lot of problematic dynamics rather than confronting them. Then there is my younger sister, Emily, who is 25, and the absolute apple of my father's eye. Since we were kids, it was always clear who the favorite was. Where I was expected to excel, Emily was praised for trying. Where I received criticism for B+ grades, Emily received celebration for passing. This is not to say I had a terrible childhood, but the double standard was always there, humming in the background of our lives. I took after my dad in some ways. I am practical, focused, and determined. After high school, I went to college for computer science, worked internships every summer, graduated with honors, and landed a good job as a software engineer at a respected tech company. I now make 6 figures, live within my means, in a modest apartment, have solid savings, and am generally responsible with my life choices. My dad should be proud, right? You would think so. Emily, on the other hand, has been trying to make it as an artist since college. She majored in fine arts, which my father surprisingly supported despite his practical nature. After graduation, she moved to a nice apartment in an artsy district of the city and has spent the last 3 years bouncing between part-time barista jobs while trying to get her paintings into galleries. Her career has not exactly taken off, but she keeps a positive attitude about it. What no one in the family knew except my parents was that for the past 3 years I had been paying Emily's rent. It started when she graduated college, and my dad pulled me aside at her graduation party. "Donnie, your sister is special. She has real talent, but the world does not always recognize that right away," he said, hand heavy on my shoulder. "She needs time to develop her art without worrying about keeping a roof over her head. Your mom and I would help, but with the business expansion and your mom's parents needing medical care, we are stretched thin. You are doing well now. I need you to help your sister." It was not framed as a request. In my family, when my father states what he needs you to do, you do it. So, I agreed. Every month for 3 years, $2,000 came out of my account and went to Emily's landlord directly. That is $72,000 total, if you are keeping score. I never told Emily. My parents insisted it would hurt her pride if she knew. So as far as she was concerned, she was living in a suspiciously affordable apartment. Despite this significant financial contribution to our family, I remained the less valued child. At every family gathering, my father would talk about Emily's artistic vision and potential, how she just needed time to be discovered. My career accomplishments were treated as expected and unremarkable. My best friend Jason has been telling me for years that this arrangement was messed up. "Dude, they are using you as an ATM while treating you like a second-class citizen," he would say when we met for beers. That is 72,000 reasons to stand up for yourself. But family obligation runs deep, and confrontation has never been my strong suit. Growing up with my father's quick temper taught me to keep the peace, stay quiet, and handle things on my own. Until recently, it seemed easier to just pay the rent and avoid the drama. As for my dad's construction business, Carson Construction has been his life's work and the yardstick by which he measures success. He started with a pickup truck and a toolbox building decks and doing renovations. Now he has 30 employees and takes on commercial contracts. He built it through sheer grit and long hours, which is admirable. But it also means he values struggle and paying dues above all else, at least when it comes to me. Emily somehow got exempted from this philosophy. The weeks leading up to the infamous dinner had been especially tense. Emily had been calling my parents complaining about her apartment. Apparently, the area was becoming too mainstream and losing its artistic edge. Plus, she needed more natural light for her studio space. She had found a perfect loft apartment in an even trendier neighborhood, but it cost 25% more than her current place. My mom called to give me a heads up that Emily would be discussing this at Sunday dinner and that it would be nice if I could be supportive. Reading between the lines, I knew what was coming. The rent increase would be passed on to me without discussion or gratitude. For the first time in my adult life, I decided I might actually speak up about this arrangement. Melanie, my girlfriend of 8 months, had recently moved in with me and was the first person I had ever told about the secret rent payments. Her response was eye-opening. "Donnie, that is financial abuse," she said firmly. "They are taking advantage of your success while diminishing your worth. You need to set boundaries." With these thoughts swirling in my head, I arrived at my parents' house that Sunday, not knowing it would be the day everything changed. Sunday dinners at the Carson household have been a tradition since I can remember. Every week, at 5:30 p.m. sharp, we gather around my mother's mahogany dining table, the same one from my childhood, and share a home-cooked meal. The ritual has remained unchanged, even as we children grew into adults with our own lives. Missing these dinners without a serious excuse is considered a minor family crime. That particular Sunday seemed normal at first. I arrived exactly on time as usual and found my mom in the kitchen putting final touches on her pot roast. The house smelled like rosemary and fresh-baked rolls. Dad was in his recliner, watching a football game, and he gave me his typical, acknowledging nod without getting up. Emily was already there helping Mom by tossing the salad, though her version of helping usually involved more talking than actual assistance. Donnie boy Mom greeted me with a warm hug. Despite everything, her love never felt conditional. "How is Melanie? I was hoping she would join us today." "She is visiting her parents in Ohio this weekend," I explained, rolling up my sleeves to actually help with dinner preparations. "She will be back Tuesday." Emily bounced over to give me her typical enthusiastic greeting. That is one thing I have always loved about my sister despite our complicated relationship. She has an infectious energy that lights up a room. Guess what she said? Practically vibrating with excitement. The West Side Gallery owner looked at my portfolio yesterday. He said my use of color is intriguing and commercially viable. Can you believe it? Something might actually happen this time. I smiled genuinely. That is great, Em. I hope it works out. Soon we were seated around the table. Mom's pot roast was perfect, as always tender and flavorful, with potatoes and carrots that had absorbed all the savory juices. Dad carved and distributed the meat while Mom passed sides. The conversation flowed normally at first. Dad talked about a new contract they were bidding on for an office building downtown. Mom mentioned a difficult parent situation at her school. I shared a brief story about a challenging coding problem I had solved at work, though I kept it short, knowing tech talk made my dad's eyes glaze over. Then, as we were finishing the main course, Emily cleared her throat dramatically. I braced myself, knowing what was coming. "So I have some exciting news," she announced, setting down her fork. "I found the most amazing apartment in the River Arts District. It has these enormous windows and exposed brick walls. The light is absolutely perfect for painting. And get this, there is a gallery space in the building's lobby where residents can display their work. The location is perfect too, right in the heart of where all the up-and-coming artists live." Dad immediately perked up. "That sounds perfect for your work, sweetheart. When can you move in?" "Well, that is the thing," Emily continued, shooting a quick glance at Mom. "It is a bit more expensive than my current place. About $500 more per month. But I really think this could be the environment I need to take my art to the next level. You know how important surroundings are for creative energy." Mom nodded supportively while giving me a meaningful look that clearly said, "Stay quiet." But something in me had reached a breaking point. 3 years of invisible financial support, while being treated as less important than my sister, had built up a reservoir of resentment I could no longer contain. I said carefully, keeping my voice level, "have you considered if you can afford a rent increase right now? I know the barista job is only part-time, and gallery sales have been slow. The table went silent. My mother looked down at her plate. Emily's eyes widened in surprise that I would question her plan. But it was my father's reaction that changed everything. His face flushed red almost instantly. He set down his knife and fork with deliberate precision, a warning sign I recognized from childhood confrontations. "What exactly are you implying, Donnie?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I should have backed down. That would have been the path of least resistance. But 28 years of being the less valued child, topped with 3 years of secretly funding my sister's artistic dreams, with no recognition, had finally reached critical mass. "I am just saying that financial decisions should be made responsibly," I replied, still trying to be diplomatic. "Moving to a more expensive apartment when your career is not yet stable might not be the best move." Dad's fist came down on the table, making the dishes jump. "Who are you to question your sister's choices, you with your safe, boring corporate job? Emily is pursuing her passion, creating beauty in this world. She needs the right environment to flourish. Not everyone is content with mediocrity like you are." The word mediocrity hit like a physical blow. Here I was, financially successful enough to support both myself and secretly my sister, being described as mediocre by the man whose approval I had sought my entire life. "Robert," my mother interjected softly. "Donnie is just concerned." "No, he is being selfish." Dad shot back. "Always has been. Only thinks about himself and his bank account. Your sister deserves more than you are willing to give this family." Something inside me broke at that moment. Perhaps it was the unfairness of being called selfish while literally paying for my sister's lifestyle. Perhaps it was the accumulated weight of never measuring up, despite my accomplishments. Whatever it was, I felt a strange calm clarity replace my usual conflict avoidance. I laughed. Not nervously, but genuinely amused at the absurdity of the situation. "What is so funny?" my father demanded. "You know what, Dad, you are right. Emily does deserve more than me. So much more that I have been paying her entire rent for the past 3 years without a single thank you. $2,000 every month from my mediocre bank account. But hey, if I am so selfish and Emily deserves more, then I am done paying her rent. She can pursue her passion on her own dime." The silence that followed was absolute. Emily's face drained of color. Mom covered her mouth with her hand. Dad looked like he had been slapped. "You are lying," Emily whispered finally. "My rent is only $2,000 a month. There is no way." "Your landlord's name is Thompson," I said quietly. "Balding guy always wears bow ties. I set up direct deposit to him 3 years ago when you graduated. Mom and Dad said it would hurt your pride to know." Emily turned to our parents' confusion and betrayal written across her face. "Is this true?" Mom could not meet her eyes. Dad's jaw worked silently for a moment before he exploded. "Get out of my house," he ordered, pointing at the door. "How dare you throw that in your sister's face? We asked you to help family, not keep score." I stood up calmly, placed my napkin beside my half-eaten dinner, and nodded, gladly. "Mr. Thompson will be getting an email tonight about the change in payment arrangements. Emily's artistic journey is now officially your problem again." As I walked to the door, I heard my mother call my name, but I did not look back. For the first time in my life, I had stood up to my father and named the unfairness that had shaped our family dynamic. It did not feel good exactly, but it felt necessary. The drive home from my parents' house was surreal. The familiar streets of my childhood neighborhood seemed different somehow, as if standing up to my father had altered my perception of everything connected to him. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as I processed what had just happened. For 28 years, I had been the good son, the responsible one who never rocked the boat. And in a single dinner, I had capsized the entire family dynamic. As soon as I pulled into my apartment complex, I called Melanie. Despite the 3-hour time difference to Ohio, I needed to hear her voice to be anchored by someone who valued me for who I actually was. They did what she exclaimed after I recounted the evening's events. "Donnie, I am so proud of you for standing up for yourself. That took real courage." "It does not feel like courage," I admitted, unlocking my apartment door and dropping onto the couch without bothering to turn on the lights. "It feels like I just blew up my family." "You did not blow up your family," she said firmly. "You just refused to keep playing a rigged game. There is a big difference. Your dad might be angry now, but maybe this will be a wake-up call for everyone. After talking with Melanie for nearly an hour, I texted Jason to meet me at O'Malley's Our Usual bar. I needed a friend who had witnessed the family dynamic firsthand over the years. Jason was already at our corner booth when I arrived, 2 beers waiting on the table. One look at my face told him everything he needed to know. You finally did it. Did not you? You told them to shove it. I slid into the booth and took a long pull from the cold beer. In front of everyone at Sunday dinner. It was not exactly planned. As I recounted the details, Jason alternated between satisfied nods and expressions of disbelief. Unlike Melanie, who had only known me for 8 months, Jason had been my friend since college. He had seen the pattern of favoritism firsthand, had watched me accept less than I deserved for years. Your dad calling you selfish while you were bankrolling your sister's bohemian fantasy is rich, he said, shaking his head. Classic Robert Carson. But listen, man, what is your plan now? They are going to come at you hard when reality sets in. I already emailed Emily's landlord, I said, showing him the sent message on my phone. I explained that I would cover next month as a courtesy, but after that, the arrangement is terminated. I also transferred the last payment this evening. $2,000, same as always. My phone had been buzzing periodically throughout our conversation. 5 missed calls and 8 text messages from my mother. Please call me when you calm down. Your father did not mean what he said. We need to talk about this as a family. Emily is very upset. Donnie, please. This affects your sister's whole life. Your father is too proud to say it, but we need to figure this out. I am worried about you. Please do not make any hasty decisions. Nothing from my father, nothing from Emily. That spoke volumes. You know what the craziest part is? I said to Jason, setting my phone screen down. I am not even that angry. I am just done. I have been financing a lifestyle for my sister that I do not even allow myself to have. My apartment is half the size of hers. I drive a 10-year-old car. I pack lunches instead of eating out. Also, I could send $2,000 a month to support someone else's dreams while being treated like I am not contributing enough. Jason nodded solemnly. Family dynamics are a hell of a drug, man. You get so used to your role that you do not even question it until something breaks. So what now? Now I figure out what my relationship with my family looks like on my terms, not theirs. The next morning at work, I found it nearly impossible to focus. My boss, Mr. Dawson, noticed my distraction during our team stand-up meeting and asked me to stay behind afterward. Everything all right, Carson? You seem 1,000 miles away today. I considered giving a generic everything is fine response, but Mr. Dawson had always been straight with me, and I respected him too much to lie. Family issues, I admitted. Nothing I cannot handle, but it is taking some mental bandwidth today. I will make up the productivity this evening. He studied me for a moment. Family has a way of pushing buttons we did not even know we had. Take the time you need to sort it out. Your work has earned you some grace. By lunchtime, the first tremors of the earthquake I had caused began to hit. An email notification from Emily's landlord, Mr. Thompson, appeared in my inbox. Mr. Carson, I have received your notice regarding the termination of rent payments for Emily Carson's apartment. As per your instructions, I will accept the final payment for next month. However, I feel I should inform you that your sister has already signed a lease renewal with a 5% increase that was to take effect next quarter. I assume she will need to be made aware of these changed circumstances. Please confirm your understanding of this situation. I confirmed receipt and understanding, then forwarded the email to my parents without additional comment. They had inserted themselves as intermediaries in this arrangement. They could deal with the fallout. That evening alone in my apartment for the first night since Melanie had left to visit her parents, the full weight of what had happened settled on me. For 3 years, $72,000 of my earnings had gone to support my sister's lifestyle and artistic aspirations. Money that could have been invested, saved for a house down payment, or even just enjoyed in my own life. Yet the money was not really what bothered me. It was the fundamental unfairness of being expected to sacrifice while being treated as less valuable, less special, less worthy of support than my sister. It was being called selfish by the very people who had taken my generosity for granted. As I heated up leftover pasta for dinner, my phone rang. Emily's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. Is it true? Emily's voice was sharp with panic. Did you really email Mr. Thompson saying you are not paying my rent anymore? I sat down at my kitchen table, mentally preparing for the conversation I had been anticipating. Yes, it is true. I gave 30 days notice, so you have a month to figure things out. How could you do this to me? The accusation in her voice was unmistakable, as if I had committed some terrible betrayal rather than simply ending a generous subsidy she had never even known about. You know, I cannot afford that place on my own, and I just told the gallery owner I would have new work for the spring showcase. Emily, I have been paying your entire rent for 3 years, without a single word of thanks, because I was told you did not even know about it. I think that is more than generous. But why would you stop now because Dad yelled at you? Do not be so sensitive. You know how he gets. Her complete lack of appreciation or understanding was breathtaking. No, Emily. I am stopping because I am tired of being treated like an ATM while being called selfish. I am stopping because I work hard for my money and deserve to be respected for my contributions, not taken for granted. There was a pause then, the sound of the phone being muffled. Muted voices argued in the background. When Emily came back on the line, her tone had changed from accusatory to pleading. Donnie, please, I need just a little more time. The gallery owner really liked my work. I could get a break any day now. You have been saying that for 3 years, I pointed out. More muffling, more arguing. Then a different voice came on the line. Donnie, this is your father. His tone was controlled, but tight with anger. You need to stop this nonsense right now. Your sister needs your support. That is what family does. Hello to you too, Dad. Interesting how family support only seems to flow in one direction. Do not get smart with me, son. You have a good job. You can afford this. Your sister is pursuing a difficult career that will take time to establish. We talked about this. No, you talked, and I listened. For 3 years and $72,000, I am done listening. This is the most selfish thing you have ever done, he said, voice rising. After everything your mother and I have done for you. What exactly have you done for me lately, Dad, besides calling me mediocre and kicking me out of Sunday dinner? Before he could respond, I heard my mother's voice in the background, then the sound of the phone changing hands again. Donnie, honey, it is Mom. Her voice was soothing, placating. The peacemaker as always. We are all a little emotional right now. Why do not we take a step back and discuss this calmly? Your sister is very upset. I am upset too, Mom. I have been for a long time. Did you know that Dad called my career mediocre yesterday? That he kicked me out for suggesting Emily be financially responsible? After I have been secretly funding her lifestyle for years. How is any of that fair? Your father does not always express himself well, she said quietly. He is proud of you, he just what? Just thinks Emily deserves more. Just values her artistic aspirations over my actual accomplishments. Just expects me to subsidize her while accepting disrespect. I am tired of the double standard. I heard more arguing in the background then. Emily came back on the line. Fine, she said, her voice cold. If that is how you want to be, I will figure it out myself. I do not need your charity. It was never charity, Emily. It was support I was happy to give, until I realized it came with the expectation that I accept being devalued in this family. Whatever. Thanks for nothing. The line went dead. I set my phone down, equal parts exhausted and relieved. For the first time, I had stated clearly how I felt and what I needed. It had not gone well, but it had been necessary. 10 minutes later, as I was finally eating my now cold pasta, someone buzzed my apartment from the building entrance. Through the intercom, I heard Emily's voice. Let me up. We need to talk face to face. I buzzed her in, mentally bracing myself. When I opened my apartment door, I found not just Emily, but my father as well. Both looking like they had come for a confrontation. This is not fair, Emily said, as soon as she crossed the threshold. She had clearly been crying, her mascara smudged beneath her eyes. You are ruining everything I have worked for. Sit down, both of you, I said, gesturing to my small living room. Let us talk like adults. My father remained standing, arms crossed. There is nothing to talk about. You made a commitment to help your sister, and now you are backing out, because your feelings got hurt. It is not about hurt feelings, Dad. It is about respect. It is about acknowledging my contributions instead of treating them as an obligation, while simultaneously calling me selfish. You want a parade for helping your sister, he scoffed. That is what family does. I worked 2 jobs to put you through college. And I have been working 1 job to put Emily through her post-college life, I countered. The difference is, you chose that sacrifice. It was not demanded of you while you were being insulted. Emily sat on the edge of my couch looking back and forth between us. I never asked for this, she said quietly. I never asked you to pay my rent. No, you did not. I agreed, some of my anger deflating. That was arranged between me and Mom and Dad. They told me not to tell you because it would hurt your pride. So, you have all been lying to me for 3 years, making me think I could afford that apartment on my own. Her voice rose with indignation. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Emily, my father interrupted. This is not about you right now. This is about your brother trying to control you by threatening your housing situation. That accusation reignited my anger. Control her? I have been silently supporting her for years. I am not threatening anything. I am simply saying I will not continue to fund a situation where my contributions are taken for granted and my worth is diminished. Always about you is not it, my father shot back. Your sister has real talent, real potential. She just needs time and support to realize it. What you want her, to give up her dreams and get some soulless office job like yours. Robert, Emily interjected, surprising both of us. Stop it. My art is not more important than Donnie's career. The 3 of us stood in tense silence for a moment. Emily looked from our father to me, something shifting in her expression. I did not know Donnie. I really did not. If I had known you were paying my rent all this time, I would have thanked you. I would have shown you my work, asked your opinion. I would have treated you with more respect. My father made a dismissive noise. This is ridiculous. Donnie, you are going to continue the payments. End of discussion. Emily stood up suddenly. No, he is not. I will figure something else out. Maybe I should have been more responsible with my finances anyway. She turned to me, her expression softening. Thank you for what you have done. I mean it. But Dad is wrong to demand you continue, especially after how you have been treated. With that, she walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. I will talk to Mr. Thompson about breaking my lease. Maybe find roommates or a cheaper place. Our father looked thunderstruck. Emily, wait. We will figure this out. But she had already left, closing the door firmly behind her. My father turned to me, his expression a mix of anger and disbelief. Now look what you have done. She is upset and making rash decisions. No, Dad. She is finally being treated like an adult who is responsible for her own choices. Maybe we all needed this wake-up call. He shook his head and moved toward the door. This conversation is not over, Donnie. Actually, it is. At least for tonight. After he left, I sank onto my couch, emotionally drained, but feeling for the first time in years that something important had shifted in my family. Whether it would ultimately be for better or worse remained to be seen. 3 days passed with no contact from my parents or Emily. I focused on work, trying to make up for my earlier distraction by diving deep into coding projects. Melanie returned from her trip, and having her back in our apartment helped restore some normalcy to my life. I had just begun to think that perhaps my family had decided to give me space when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Uncle James, my father's younger brother. Donnie, it is Uncle James. Got a minute. Unlike my father, Uncle James had always been easy to talk to. He had taken a different path in life, becoming a high school English teacher rather than joining the family construction business. This choice had created some tension with my father years ago, though they had eventually reconciled. Sure, Uncle James. What is up? I just had lunch with your dad, he said, getting straight to the point. He is pretty worked up about this situation with you and Emily. Wanted to get your side of things. I gave him the condensed version, feeling a strange relief at finally being able to speak openly about the financial arrangement that had been kept secret for so long. $72,000, Uncle James whistled low. That is a hell of a lot of support to be giving while being called selfish. Exactly. And it is not even about the money, really. It is about the lack of appreciation and the double standard. Listen, your grandfather William has asked the family to gather at his place this Saturday. He wants to address this situation before it fractures the family any further. Your Aunt Patricia will be there too. Would you come around 2 p.m.? Grandpa William was 82, and the undisputed patriarch of the Carson family. My father and Uncle James both respected him immensely, and even in his 80s, his words carried significant weight. If he was getting involved, this was serious. I will be there, I agreed. But I am not backing down on this, Uncle James. Not asking you to kid, just asking you to show up and speak your truth. Sometimes families need these moments to reset unhealthy patterns. After hanging up, I called Melanie to fill her in on this new development. A family intervention, huh? She said. How do you feel about that? Nervous, I admitted. Grandpa William is the only person my dad still listens to, but I am also relieved. Maybe an objective third party can help them see how unfair this situation has been. Melanie offered sage advice. Remember, this is not just about the money. Make sure they understand that. This is about respect and being valued in your family. Do not let them reduce it to dollars and cents. Saturday arrived, sunny but cool. As Melanie dropped me off at Grandpa William's craftsman-style house, she squeezed my hand. Text me when you are done. I am only a call away if you need me. The house was already full when I arrived. My parents' car was in the driveway, as was Emily's old Civic. Uncle James greeted me at the door, with a supportive clap on the shoulder. Aunt Patricia, my mother's sister, was in the kitchen, arranging cookies on a plate. She had always been more straightforward than my mother, and gave me a warm hug. About time someone shook things up in this family, she whispered in my ear. The living room fell silent when I entered. My father sat stiffly in an armchair, barely acknowledging my presence. My mother offered a tentative smile from her seat on the couch. Emily was perched on the window seat, looking uncomfortable, but not hostile. Grandpa William occupied his usual recliner, his eyes sharp despite his age. Donnie, good to see you. Son, Grandpa, said, gesturing to an empty chair. Sit down, we have some family business to discuss. I took the offered seat, nodding greetings to everyone. The tension in the room was palpable. I have asked you all here because this family is in turmoil. Grandpa William began without preamble. Robert, Laura, Emily, and Donnie. We need to clear the air about some patterns that have been festering for too long. My father immediately started to speak, but Grandpa held up a hand, silencing him. I will hear from everyone, but first I want to establish some ground rules. Each person gets to speak without interruption. No name-calling or raising voices. We are here to understand each other, not win arguments. Uncle James has agreed to help facilitate if things get heated. Uncle James nodded from his position, leaning against the doorframe. Now Grandpa continued. I understand that for the past 3 years, Donnie has been paying Emily's rent without her knowledge at the request of Robert and Laura. And that at Sunday dinner, things came to a head when Emily requested a more expensive apartment and Donnie was called selfish for questioning it. Is that accurate? Everyone nodded, though. My father looked like he wanted to object to the framing. I would like to hear from each of you, starting with Laura. My mother twisted her hands in her lap, clearly uncomfortable being put on the spot. We never meant for this to become a problem, she began hesitantly. Robert and I were stretched financially when Emily graduated, and we knew she needed time to establish her art career. Donnie was doing well, and we thought he could help temporarily. We did not tell Emily, because we wanted her to maintain her independence and confidence. And how temporary was this arrangement intended to be? Grandpa asked. We did not specify a timeline, my mother admitted. I suppose we thought once Emily started selling her artwork regularly. Which has not happened in 3 years. I interjected then, apologized for interrupting. Emily, Grandpa turned to my sister. What is your perspective on all this? Emily looked younger than her 25 years, sitting there, arms wrapped around herself defensively. I had no idea Donnie was paying my rent. None. I thought I had just found an affordable place. If I had known, I would never have asked for a more expensive apartment. I would have thanked him. I would have shown him more respect. She wiped away a tear. I feel awful about it. Grandpa nodded thoughtfully. Robert, your turn. My father sat up straighter, jaw set. We did what we thought was best for both our children. Donnie has a stable, lucrative career. Emily is pursuing a more difficult path that requires support and time. That is what families do, they support each other. Donnie's decision to suddenly withdraw that support because his feelings were hurt is irresponsible and selfish. I clenched my fists, but remained silent, waiting for my turn. Donnie Grandpa's gentle prompt came. I was happy to help Emily. At first I began carefully. I love my sister and want her to succeed. But over time it became clear that my contributions were expected rather than appreciated. That my career and my choices were valued less than Emily's. That I could give and still be called selfish and mediocre by my own father. At Sunday dinner, when Dad called me selfish for simply suggesting financial responsibility, something broke. I realized I was enabling a family dynamic that was unhealthy for all of us. The room was quiet for a moment as my words sank in. Then Grandpa William did something unexpected. He turned to my father with an unusually stern expression. Robert, do you hear yourself? Do you hear how you sound exactly like my father did to me and to you and your brother? My father looked startled. What are you talking about? Your grandfather, my father, played favorites too. He thought my choice to go into the military was worthless compared to your Uncle Henry's decision to go to college. He undermined me at every turn, praised Henry to the skies. And when I came home from Vietnam and started my construction business, he dismissed it as manual labor while celebrating Henry's accounting degree. Sound familiar? The color drained from my father's face. That was different. Was it you swore you would never do to your children what was done to you? Yet here you are calling your son's successful career mediocre, while putting your daughter's struggling artistic pursuits on a pedestal. Emily has special talent, my father insisted, but with less conviction. So does Donnie, Grandpa countered. Building a successful career in a competitive field, being financially responsible enough to support not only himself, but his sister, showing loyalty to family, even when treated unfairly. Those are rare and valuable traits, Robert. My father looked away, unable to meet his father's gaze. Aunt Patricia spoke up, from where she had been quietly observing. This pattern goes beyond Robert. Laura, you and I were raised by parents who always smooth things over instead of addressing problems directly. That is why you have allowed this situation to continue mediating between Robert and the children instead of confronting the fundamental unfairness. My mother nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. I just wanted everyone to get along. Sometimes getting along requires facing uncomfortable truths, Uncle James added. This family has been operating on unspoken rules and expectations for too long. Grandpa William turned back to me. Donnie, I want you to know that I see your value, your contributions, and your legitimate grievance here. No one in this family should be taken for granted or made to feel less than. For the first time in my adult life, I felt truly seen within my family. The validation from my grandfather, whom my father respected above all others, carried enormous weight. Emily suddenly stood up. I have something I need to say too. Donnie, I am so sorry. Not just about the rent, but for not seeing how you were being treated. I think I bought into the family story about me being the special one with potential. But the truth is, you have already realized your potential while I am still floundering. I need to take responsibility for my own life and stop expecting others to subsidize my choices. My father looked at Emily in shock, clearly not expecting her to side with me. The family dynamic was shifting before our eyes. Old patterns disrupted by uncomfortable truths finally spoken aloud. So, where do we go from here? Uncle James asked, looking around the room. Grandpa William leaned forward in his recliner. First, we acknowledged the truth. Robert and Laura asked too much of Donnie while giving him too little recognition. Emily was kept in the dark about financial realities, which was unfair to both her and her brother. And patterns of favoritism have hurt this family for generations. He fixed my father with a stern look. Robert, you need to really hear what your son is saying, not just about the money, but about how he has been made to feel in this family. And you owe him an apology, not just for Sunday's dinner, but for years of diminishing his accomplishments. My father looked like he wanted to argue, but remained silent. Emily Grandpa continued. You need to take financial responsibility for yourself, whether that means finding roommates, moving to a less expensive place, or supplementing your art with more stable income. Emily nodded, looking both chastened and determined. Laura, you need to stop enabling unhealthy patterns by always smoothing things over. Sometimes, family healing requires confronting problems directly. And Donnie, he turned to me last, you have every right to set boundaries around your financial support, but I hope you will not cut yourself off from the family entirely. Healing is possible if everyone is willing to do the work. As the family intervention continued, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Vindication, yes, but also hope that perhaps this painful confrontation could lead to healthier relationships for all of us. The family meeting at Grandpa William's house had broken open long-hidden dynamics, but there were still pieces of the puzzle missing. 2 days after the intervention, I received an unexpected text from Claire, Emily's best friend since college. Can we meet for coffee? There are some things you should know. I agreed, curious about what Emily's friend could possibly want to tell me. We arranged to meet at a small cafe halfway between our workplaces during lunch the following day. Claire was already at a corner table when I arrived, 2 coffee cups in front of her. She looked nervous, fiddling with her napkin as I sat down. Thanks for meeting me, she said. This is awkward, but after everything Emily told me about what happened, I feel like you deserve to know the truth. What truth? Claire took a deep breath. Emily has not been using the money from her apartment the way you think. For the past 2 years, she has been subletting the second bedroom to pay part of her rent while telling your parents she needs the space for her art studio. I felt my stomach drop. She has a roommate, but that would mean that she has had an extra $1,000 to $1,500 each month that none of you knew about, Claire confirmed. I love Emily. She is my best friend, but she has been spending that money on art supplies, yes, but also on expensive clothes, weekend trips with friends, and, she hesitated. And what? And funding a small business she has been trying to launch on the side. A jewelry line. She has been working with a metalsmith, taking classes, buying materials. It is actually good work, but she has kept it secret from your family because she is afraid your parents would not consider it real art, like her painting. My mind raced, calculating the implications. If Emily had been subletting for 2 years, that meant she had effectively pocketed somewhere between $24,000 and $36,000 while I continued to pay her full rent under the impression she was struggling. Do you have proof of this? I asked, not wanting to jump to conclusions. Claire nodded and pulled out her phone. She posts about the jewelry on a separate Instagram account your family does not know about. And here are some texts where she talks about her roommate, Zach. She showed me the evidence, including photos of elaborate pieces of metal jewelry with Emily's distinctive aesthetic, priced at hundreds of dollars each. There were also messages complaining about Zach leaving dishes in the sink again and mentioning his portion of the rent. Why are you telling me this? I asked finally. Claire looked uncomfortable. After Emily told me what happened at your family dinner and how you had been secretly paying her rent all this time, I felt sick about knowing she was essentially double-dipping. You deserve to know the truth before you all try to move forward. I thanked Claire for her honesty, my mind still processing this new information as I headed back to work. By the time evening came, I had decided what to do. I called my parents and asked them to meet me at my apartment, and separately texted Emily to come an hour later. I did not tell either party that the other would be there. My parents arrived first, looking apprehensive. We exchanged awkward greetings as they sat stiffly on my couch. Thank you for coming, I began. There is something important we need to discuss about Emily's financial situation. Before I could continue, there was a knock at the door. Emily looked surprised to see our parents when I let her in. What is going on? She asked. Please sit down, I said. I had a very interesting conversation with Claire today. Emily's face immediately paled, confirming my suspicions before I even presented the evidence. Claire told you, she said quietly. Told him what my father demanded. I turned to my parents. For the past 2 years, Emily has had a roommate named Zach who has been paying half her rent. She has also been developing a secret jewelry business that she has kept hidden from all of us. My mother gasped. Is this true, Emily? Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. Yes. Zach moved in 2 years ago. He pays $1,400 a month. My father looked thunderstruck. So all this time, that Donnie has been paying your rent? I have had an extra $1,400 a month, Emily admitted, unable to meet anyone's eyes. I used some of it for art supplies, but also for the jewelry business and other things. Other things like weekend trips to the coast and designer clothes I added, recalling Claire's revelations. I can explain, Emily began, but my father cut her off. No, you cannot, he said, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. There is no explanation for this level of deception. You let your brother sacrifice for you while you secretly had plenty of money. You let us believe you were struggling financially. You lied to all of us. For the first time, I could remember my father's anger was not directed at me, but at Emily. The shift was disorienting. I did not ask for Donnie to pay my rent, Emily protested. That was your arrangement with him. But you knew someone was subsidizing your living situation, my mother pointed out. You must have known your barista job could not possibly cover rent in that neighborhood. And when you found out it was Donnie, you still did not come clean about the roommate or the extra income. Emily broke down in tears. I was going to tell you all eventually. I just wanted to get the jewelry business established first. I was afraid you would not support it like you do my painting. Dad always talks about real art versus crafts. My father sat back, looking suddenly older. So this is my fault too. That you lied and took advantage of your brother's generosity? No, Emily said through tears. It is my fault. I got comfortable with the arrangement. I liked having the extra money. I liked not having to struggle like my other artist friends. And once the deception started, it was easier to continue it than come clean. We all sat in heavy silence for a moment, absorbing the magnitude of the deception. Then, surprisingly, my father turned to me. I owe you an apology, Donnie, he said, his voice rough with emotion. A big one. Not just for Sunday dinner, but for years of taking you for granted and failing to see your value. I have been blind to my own favoritism, and I have been completely wrong about Emily's situation. The apology I had wanted for so long felt hollow in the wake of these new revelations. This was no longer just about me being underappreciated. It was about a web of deception that had ensnared our entire family. I think we all need to take responsibility, I said finally. Mom and Dad, you created a dynamic where Emily was elevated and I was expected to sacrifice. Emily, you took advantage of that dynamic for your own benefit, and I enabled it all, by never speaking up until now. My mother wiped away tears. Where do we go from here? First, Emily needs to come clean about everything, I said firmly. No more secrets, no more hidden income or businesses. Full financial transparency. Emily nodded miserably. Second, I am definitively done paying for Emily's housing. Not just because of the deception, but because it is time for all of us to have healthier boundaries. Agreed, my father said, surprising me again. Emily will need to support herself from now on. If that means getting a full-time job and doing art on the side, so be it. That is what most artists do anyway. And third, I continued, we all need to work on how we communicate and value each other in this family. This is not just about money. It is about respect, honesty, and treating each other fairly. My mother reached for my hand. I am so sorry, Donnie. I should have seen what was happening and stopped it long ago. Emily looked up, her face, tear-stained but resolute. I will make this right, I promise. The jewelry business is actually doing well. I can support myself if I work at it full-time and keep my barista job. I do not need the expensive apartment. I do not need anyone to subsidize me anymore. As difficult as the conversation was, it felt like we were finally operating in reality rather than the distorted family dynamic that had defined us for so long. The truth had been painful but necessary. And while trust would take time to rebuild, at least now we had an honest foundation to build upon. 3 months passed like a slow exhale after the storm of revelations and confrontations. The Carson family did not heal overnight, but small, significant shifts began to occur as we all adjusted to our new reality. Emily moved out of her expensive apartment and found a more affordable place, with 2 roommates who were also artists. She increased her hours at the coffee shop and focused more seriously on her jewelry business, which turned out to have real potential. A local boutique had started carrying her pieces, and she had launched a modest online store that was gaining traction. My parents had gone through their own reckoning. My father, never one for introspection, had actually started seeing a therapist at my mother's insistence, just to talk things through He had explained awkwardly when he let this slip during a phone call. My mother had become more assertive, less willing to smooth over problems at the expense of honest communication. As for me, I had maintained some distance while processing my complex emotions about the whole situation. Melanie had been my rock throughout, offering perspective when I got too deep in family dynamics and reminding me that setting boundaries was an act of health, not punishment. Then came the invitation, a family dinner at my parents' house. The first since the fateful night that had sparked everything, I accepted with trepidation. Walking into my childhood home felt strange, like returning to a familiar place that had been subtly rearranged. My mother greeted me with a warm hug. Emily was already there helping in the kitchen and gave me a nervous smile. My father emerged from his study, and for a moment we just looked at each other. "Donnie," he said, finally extending his hand. When I took it, he pulled me into an awkward but genuine hug. "Good to have you here, son." Dinner was not the forced performance of normalcy I had feared. Instead, there was a tentative authenticity to our interactions. We talked about my current work project, and for once my father asked follow-up questions that showed real interest. "The programming you do solving those complex problems," he said at one point, "that is a kind of craftsmanship too. Is not it, building something from nothing? I never thought about it that way before." Coming from my father, this was practically a sonnet of appreciation. Emily shared updates on her jewelry business, showing us photos of her latest pieces on her phone. "I have almost enough saved for a small kiln," she said. "Once I have that, I can do more advanced metalwork from home." "That is impressive, Em," I said sincerely. "Your designs are really distinctive." As we finished dessert, my father cleared his throat. "I have something I need to say." He looked uncomfortable but determined. "Donnie, I was wrong. Not just about the money situation, but about how I have treated you for years. I favored your sister. I diminished your achievements. I took your support for granted while criticizing you for not giving more. I was recreating the same dynamic my father created with me, and my brother, the very thing I swore I would never do." The directness of his apology caught me off guard. My father was not a man who admitted fault easily. "I appreciate that, Dad," I said when I found my voice. "It means a lot to hear you say it." "I cannot change the past," he continued, "but I am working on doing better going forward. I am proud of you, Donnie. Of the man you have become, despite my failures as a father." My mother wiped away tears. Emily reached across the table to squeeze my hand. After dinner, my mother pulled me aside for a private conversation on the back porch, the same place she had comforted me after childhood disappointments. "I want you to know that I see my part in all this too," she said. "I should have stood up to your father when he was unfair to you. I should have stopped the secret financial arrangement before it started. I was trying to keep the peace, but I was really just enabling unhealthy patterns." "We all played our parts, Mom," I said. "We can only go forward from here." Later that week, I met with Jason to catch him up on the family developments. We sat at our usual table at O'Malley's, the familiar setting, a contrast to how much had changed. "So your old man actually apologized directly. No qualifiers." Jason seemed skeptical. "Shocked me too," I admitted. "The therapist must be working miracles. Or maybe Grandpa William's intervention finally got through to him. Either way, it felt genuine." "And Emily?" "Working hard, actually. The jewelry business is taking off, and she is supporting herself for the first time. We are not best friends or anything, but it is better, more honest." Jason raised his beer in a toast to setting boundaries and watching them work magic. Melanie and I had also grown closer through the family crisis. Seeing her unwavering support had clarified what I wanted for my future. I had started looking at engagement rings, thinking about the family we might build together someday, one based on mutual respect and fairness from the beginning. The following weekend, I visited Grandpa William alone. At 82, he was still sharp and insightful, and I wanted to thank him for his role in helping our family face its dysfunctions. "You did the hard part, Donnie," he said as we sat on his front porch. "Standing up for yourself is never easy, especially with family. But sometimes it is the only way to break unhealthy cycles." "How did you know what to say to Dad?" I asked. "About his own father's favoritism." Grandpa smiled sadly. "Because I watched it happen, and I regret not stepping in sooner." Your grandmother, God rest her soul, used to tell me to intervene, but I thought Robert and Henry needed to work it out themselves. I was wrong. By the time I realized how deep the wound went, patterns were already established. Patterns that Robert then recreated with you and Emily. Do you think we can actually change? As a family? I do, he said with conviction. The fact that you all faced the truth instead of burying it tells me this family can heal. Not perfectly, not completely, but substantially. The key is to keep the honest communication going, even when it is uncomfortable. In the months that followed, we did just that. Family gatherings became more genuine, less performance. Emily and I developed a more authentic sibling relationship based on mutual respect rather than secret resentments. My father made visible efforts to value my career and choices, sometimes overcorrecting in his enthusiasm, but touching in his sincerity. One day, Mr. Dawson called me into his office at work. Carson, the team lead position for the new project, has opened up. I would like you to consider taking it. Me. But Johnson has more seniority. Johnson has time served, yes. But you have shown exceptional judgment not just technically, but in managing complex situations and relationships. That is what leadership requires. As I left his office with the promotion details to consider, I realized that the skills I had developed navigating my family's dysfunction had strengthened me in unexpected ways. Setting boundaries, communicating clearly, even in emotional situations, standing firm in my worthwhile, remaining open to reconciliation, these were valuable not just in family life, but in my career as well. That evening, as Melanie and I celebrated my potential promotion over dinner, I reflected on the journey of the past few months. You know what the strangest part is, I said. As painful as that Sunday dinner confrontation was, it might be the best thing that ever happened to our family. We were all trapped in roles that were hurting us, and now we are finally breaking free. Sometimes systems need to break down completely before they can be rebuilt in healthier ways, she replied. Always insightful. And you were brave enough to be the catalyst. I thought about the $72,000 I had paid toward Emily's rent over those 3 years. In strictly financial terms, it was a significant loss. But in terms of what it had ultimately purchased, the honest relationships and personal growth that had emerged from the conflict, perhaps it had been worth every penny after all. Not that I was signing up to subsidize anyone else anytime soon. Boundaries once established needed to be maintained. But I had learned that standing up for myself did not have to mean cutting off my family. It could mean creating the conditions for more authentic connection. Family is complicated, Grandpa William had told me during our talk, but worth the effort when everyone is willing to do their part. As I looked toward the future, I felt a sense of peace that had long eluded me. The respect I had sought from my family had finally come, not because I had earned it through sacrifice or achievement, but because I had finally demanded it as my right. The painful truth had set us all free to build something better. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took your generosity for granted? Do you think families can truly change established dynamics, or are we always stuck in our assigned roles? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about navigating complicated family relationships. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, sometimes standing up for yourself is the greatest gift you can give to everyone involved.